Who knew that Hamilton's old Ivor Wynne Stadium was the launching point for an alien attack? That is the premise of the new novel, The Medusa Deep, from David Neil Lee. It's out this week, and David joins us this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Annette. Totally appreciate CHCH. Thanks.
Thank you. I totally appreciate the book because this is a follow-up to an award-winning novel that you did, and it's a YA novel, and it's a trilogy that's set in Hamilton, much like you are now.
Yes. Years ago, the local publisher, Woolsack and Wynne, I agreed to do a horror novel with them, and I thought, well, I live right close to Ivor Wynne Stadium, as it was at the time. I'm going to set it there. I'm going to make something happen there. And so, yes, that novel came out at the Midnight Games.
And so The Medusa Deep is a follow-up, and it kind of picks up from the events of the first novel. How did you use so much of Hamilton? Because there's so many great spots in the industrial North End there that as I'm reading it, I'm picturing myself there too.
That's so great. That's the idea. Hamilton has a lot of atmosphere. Here, especially in the East End, people are very aware of industrial heritage and the way that's diminished in the last decades. And of course, as a result of that, there's a lot of spooky old buildings around Hamilton, as you might have noticed. And you can do things, as I did researching the book. I'll go up the trunk lines in my neighborhood here and walk up the overgrown railway tracks, and you can see the sidelines going off to businesses that no longer exist, and all that stuff is very spooky and atmospheric.
Yeah,
I would say.
Great for the imagination. You've also, this is a young adult novel. It certainly didn't read like one, but you've also got a great mix of history in there because there's a lot of things that happen in the Second World War that you've kind of tied in with an alien invasion. And there's also lots of nods to Indigenous knowledge.
Well, all that stuff is very, how can I say, that's in the same way that all these old buildings and stuff are part of the fabric of Hamilton. The past is very much a fabric of part of the fabric of all our lives, and it's interesting to look at something and say, there's a story there. But any book that has a story in it is always part of a much larger story. So if you want to make your book interesting, it's so easy because you can look outside it and say, hey, maybe it's tied to that larger story or that larger story, and you can bring all those in using the imagination, which is great. I think one great thing about a young adult novel, it's actually a little bit of an interesting adventure story. So it really is by no means confined to younger audiences. I found with the Midnight Games that all sorts of people of all ages told me they read it and really enjoyed it. Nothing better than that for an author, believe me.
Right. Are you working on another follow-up to this one?
Well, the Midnight Games did pretty well for me and for Woolsack and Wynne, who were a local publisher, and it was an adventure. I'd never written a book like that before. They'd never published a book like that before. So I told them, yes, I would make it a trilogy. So this second book, The Medusa Deep, takes us out of Hamilton, very far away. The third book takes us right back. And if you think the first book, The Midnight Games, really made a mess of Ivor Wynne Stadium, just wait to see what the third book does to downtown Hamilton.
Okay.
Ooh, it ain't pretty.
That's what we call a teaser. David Neil Lee, the author of The Medusa Deep, which is out this week. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much, Annette.